Hello, this is Angela Williams, leader of the Lifestyle Changers team, and I wanted to shoot this really quick video to give just a little bit further training on the W4, kind of going back over it again, how to correct it and adjust it so that you can teach your new distributors, as well as just a way for you to make sure that you're doing yours correctly. I've also attached a worksheet for page 2. Because it seems like a lot of people are getting stuck on page 2. So I wanted to make that process as simple as possible. So I'm going to be going over that as well. So let's get to it. All right, let's pull this up here. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the W4, okay? In the upper left-hand corner, I have highlighted in yellow what the IRS gives you the permission to do with your W4. And what it says is that you should consider completing a new form W4 each year and when your personal or financial situation changes. Well, what personal financial changes will require you to adjust your W4? Well, you could have children, you have more children, you could get married, you could get divorced, or you can start a business. But what the IRS is telling you is that every year you should look at your W4 to see if you need to make any adjustments. We all know that there are a lot of people who probably haven't changed or looked at their W4 since they started their job, and don't even realize that there's probably more allowances that they can claim if they knew how to fill the form out correctly. Another note that I wanted to mention, it is highlighted in yellow, and that is the status of head of household, okay? The only person who can claim head of household is someone who is not married, and you are paying more than 50% of the cost for anyone that is living in your home. So if you're paying more than 50% of the cost for yourself, as well as your children, or maybe you have to take care of a mother or a grandparent, as long as you are paying over 50% of their living expenses, they are considered a dependent, and you can claim head of household. You cannot claim head of household if you are married, and it doesn't matter if you make more money than your spouse. If you're married, you can't be head of household. Head of household has to be single. So let's go through these personal allowance worksheet, which is page 1. And to me, it's pretty self-explanatory. All you have to do is just read each line carefully, okay? So let's start with line A. It says, enter 1 for yourself if no one else can claim you as a dependent, okay? So you're gonna enter 1 for A. That's self-explanatory, okay? For line B, enter 1 if you're single and you only have one job, or if you're married, have one job, and your spouse does not work, okay? So if you're single, you're gonna put 1 on line B. If you are married and you and your wife both have a job, you're gonna put 0 for line B. Line C is where you're able to count your spouse. So on line C, you're gonna enter 1 for your spouse, regardless if they work or not, okay? Line D, enter the number of dependents that you are going to claim on your tax return. If you got one child, you're going to enter 1 for line D. If you got 2 kids, you're going to enter 2. If you have a child and you're taking care of your grandmother, then on line D, you're still going to enter 2. Line E, enter 1 if you will file head of household on your taxes. And I just talked about the requirements for you to be able to claim head of household. Line F, enter 1 if you have at least $2,000 in child care, daycare expenses throughout the year. Now, if you are paying someone to watch your child and they don't have a licensed daycare, they just they're helping you out, maybe it's a relative and you kind of just paying them, but they're not reporting that income to the state or the government, then you cannot claim that as child dependent care expenses, okay? But if you are paying a licensed facility and you're paying over $2,000 in a year, you get to enter 1 in line F. Line G, which is the child tax credit, and for some people, they kind of get confused in this area. Okay, as you can see under the child tax credit, there are 2 bullet points. And those two bullet points are two different criteria depending on your income. Okay, so for bullet point number 1, which is criteria number 1, if you make less than $70,000 a year and you're single, or if you make less than $100,000 a year and you're married, you're going to follow criteria number 1, bullet point number 1. If you make more than $70,000 a year and you're single, or you make over $100,000 as a married couple, but no more than $119,000 as a married couple, you get to follow bullet point number 2, criteria number 2. Now, if you are married and you make over $120,000, you do not get the child tax credit. Okay? If you are single and you make over $70,000, you do not qualify for the child tax credit. Okay? So let's go through the first criteria. If you make less than $70,000, you're single, or you make less than $100,000 and you're married. Okay? It says enter 2 for each child. Okay? Less 1 if you have 2 to 4 children, less 2 if you have 5 or more children. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is, if depending on the number of children you're going to have, you're going to multiply it by 2. Okay, then depending on how many children you have, it will determine whether or not you're going to be subtracting 1 from that number, subtracting 2 from that number. Okay, so if I make less than $70,000 and I have 1 child, I am going to enter number 2 on line G. If I'm single and I have 2 children, so that's going to be 2 times 2, so that's 4, and then it says less 1 if you have 2 to 4 children. So in that case, I'm going to take 1 from the 4. So on line G, I'm going to enter 3. So let's say I got 4 children. Okay, well, if I have 4 children, that's 4 times 2, that's 8, minus 1, because I have within the threshold 2 to 4 children. So on line G, I'm going to write 7. Okay, but let's say you have a big family. Okay, maybe you make less than $70,000, but let's say you have 5 children. So that's going to be 5 times 2, so that's 10, and it says minus 2 if you have 5 or more children. So that's 10 minus 2. So on line G, you're going to enter 8. Okay, and as you can see, if your income is over $70,000, if you're married and you're making over $100,000, you only get to claim 1 for each eligible child. So basically, if you have a significant amount of income, if you got 1 child, you can put 1. If you got 2 kids, you can put 2. If you got 3 kids, you can put 3. Okay, now what you're going to do on line H is you're going to add all your numbers up from A to G, and you're going to enter that in line H. Now, what you'll notice from this form, especially for people who have a lot of children, they qualify for a lot of allowances just by reading and modifying their W-4 correctly. Because I know people right now who has 5 kids and they're only claiming 5, when really that number is significantly higher if you go through each step on the W-4. So just training people on how to do the W-4 it's really critical in their ability to get more money in their paycheck so they can get out of debt or so that they can invest. Okay, so making sure that you're trained on this and make sure you can train other people is vital. Now, what I also highlighted right underneath line H, it says, if you plan to itemize or claim adjustments to income and want to reduce your withholdings, see the deductions and adjustments worksheet on page 2. So I'm going to scroll down to page 2. Okay, so this is what page 2 looks like. This is the page that a lot of people get confused with, or they're not comfortable really with understanding this. So I am going to try to make this as simple as possible for you. Okay, so who can fill out page 2? Anyone who has a mortgage, can fill out line 1 of page 2 and could possibly get additional allowances. And anyone who has a home-based business or any type of business, you can complete page 2 because your business deductions offset your income when you file your taxes at the end of the year. So just think about that. Think about people who don't really understand the W-4 and they've been paying a mortgage for the past 10, 15 years and didn't even realize that they probably could have claimed an additional 1 or 2 allowances just off of their mortgage interest alone had they knew about it. Okay, so to me, this is the scam. And most HR departments are not even trained on how to complete the W-4 correctly. So we are needed in our community. So let's look at line 1, okay? Line 1 is for those people who are already doing itemized deductions on their taxes. Okay, so they're doing their 1040, might be a 1040A or what have you, and they're doing itemized deductions already. They're already writing off their interest, they're writing off their real estate, maybe they have medical bills, okay? So what you're gonna enter in line 1. Line 1 is only for people who have a mortgage, people who are doing itemized deductions only. So if you do not have a mortgage on line 1, you are entering 0, okay? But on line 1, for people who do have a mortgage, you are going to take a piece of paper on the side. You're going to pull your tax return from last year. You're going to go down to the itemized deductions section, and you're going to write down how much they said you paid in your home mortgage interest, if you had any charitable contributions, if you had any medical expenses that was over 10% of your income. All of that is already on your itemized deductions on your 1040. So you're just going back to the prior year and getting that information. And you're going to enter it in line 1. Okay? Line 2, you're going to write the number based on your filing status. So on line 2, if you're married, filing jointly, okay, you're going to enter $12,700 on line 2. If you are head of household, you're going to enter $9,350. If you are single or you're married filing separately, on line 2, you're going to enter $6,350. Okay? Now, line 3 says that you're going to subtract line 2 from line 1, and if that number is 0 or a negative number, which means less than 0, you're going to enter 0. Okay, so to make this really simple, if the line 2 number is greater than line 1, just enter 0. Okay, just enter 0. So if I went and looked at my taxes, I mean at my tax returns last year, and I paid $10,000 in mortgage interest. Well, I'm going to put that $10,000 on line 1. I'm single, so actually I'm head of household. So if I'm head of household, I'm going to take $9,350. So that's going to give me a little bit of a balance, okay? And that's what I'm going to put in line 3. But let's say that I'm head of household and my mortgage interest was only $5,000. And my line 2 was $9,350. Well, line 2 is greater than line 1, so I'm just going to enter 0, because when I subtract line 2 from line 1, it's going to give me a negative number. Okay, so keep it simple. Line 4 is where most people get a little bit confused, because it says enter a estimate, not actuals, but an estimate of your 2017 adjustment to income and any additional standard deductions, okay? This is the spot where you're gonna get an additional sheet of paper and you're gonna write down basic lifestyle expenses, and you're gonna come up with an annual total. You're gonna enter that number in line 4. Now this is gonna make sense to you because I have created a W4 supplement sheet that you're gonna be able to follow what I'm saying, okay? So I'm gonna get to the second. Okay, so you're going to get that annual total. So it's like your rent, your utilities, your cell phone, things like that. You're going to add that up for the year, and you're going to put that annual total in line 4. In line 5, it says add lines 3 and line 4 together. Now, if your line 3 number is 0, then line 5, you're just carrying down the number from line 4. Line 6, enter an estimate of your 2017 non-wage income. The only time you're going to put an amount in line 6 is if you have some type of stocks and you're going to be earning dividends, and you're going to be taking that money out. You're going to have earned dividends, or you're earning interest from your savings account. Okay, that is very significant. Then you're going to put that number in line 6. For most people, that number is 0. Line 7, subtract line 6 from line 5. In most people's case, you're just going to bring down that number from line 5. Okay, so it's basically line 4 going down to line 5, going all the way down to line 7. Then on line 8, it says divide that total number by 4,050. So if the number on line 6 was $20,000, when you divide that by 40/50, you're going to get the number of some type of fraction, 5.2, 5.4, 5.1. Drop the fraction. Just drop the fraction. So if it's 5 point whatever, just put 5 on line 8. Then on line 9, the number, go back to page 1. That number that you entered right here on line H from page 1, you're going to enter that on line 9 of page 2. So line 10 is telling you to add that number that you got after doing that, dividing your expenses by 4,050, adding what you came up with from page 1, you're going to enter that for line 10. Okay, so let's just keep this really simple, you guys. The easiest way to do this is when you get started on page 2, the question you are asking is, do you have a mortgage or not? Because if they don't have a mortgage, it's just 0. Okay, if they don't have a mortgage, go on down to line 4. Come up with their estimate, their basic living expenses. Then go to line 8. Divide that number by 4,050, and that's going to give you the additional allowances that you can add to the allowances that you came up on page 1. Okay, when you have that total number, you're going to go back to the page 1 of your W4, and you're going to go down to the section that says Employees Withholding Allowance Certificate. Line 5. You're going to enter the total number of allowances that you are claiming from line H above or from the worksheet on page 2. So on line 10 of page 2, you're going to enter that number on line 5. Trust me, it's simple. The W4 is simple. Once you do it 1 or 2 times, you are going to have this. Now, what I want to do right now is I'm just going to bring up the supplement sheet that I put together for page 2 so that we can make this as simple as possible. So when you're getting ready to do your W4 or you're getting ready to do the W4 for a distributor, I suggest that you go out and make maybe 20, 30, 100 copies of the front and back page of the W4. You can go to irs.gov, you can download it in your MyEcon business. When you log into the back office under documents, you should see a W4 as well that you can print off at home. So you just want to have a whole bunch of blank copies available so that when you're sharing a business opportunity with someone, if they decide to join, you can complete the W4 right there so that they can turn their sheet in the next day to HR, because we want people income shifting as fast as possible. So what you want to personally have is you want to have a blank W4, and then you want to print out this the second page supplement. And so I'm finna to bring that up. Wait a minute, let me close this particular page because for some reason it keeps pulling back to that. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want to close this. All right. Okay, I'm back. So hopefully you guys can see this. All right. So this is the W4 page 2 deduction and adjustments worksheet. Okay. And all you want to do is print this out because this should make it really simple for you to do. Okay. So line 1 is line 1 from page 2 of the W4. And it says, if you have a mortgage, enter the interest paid last year on your 1040 return. You're going to put that number right here. Okay. Number 2, enter $12,700 if you're married, $93.50 if you had a household, $63.50 if you're single. Put that number here. Okay. Line 3 says subtract line 2 from line 1. If the number is negative, enter 0 here. Okay, so if line 2 is greater than line 1, just enter 0 right here. If your distributor do not have a mortgage, just enter 0 in line 1, 0 for line 3, because it doesn't matter. All right, now let's talk about the basic lifestyle expense calculation. What I have done, now there are a lot of tax deductions that you qualify as a business owner. But for the W4 adjustment, I want to keep it simple and I want to keep it conservative. Okay, so I have put the bare minimum lifestyle expenses that everybody pretty much has to pay. All right, so the one thing I do want to is one more thing I'm going to add to this when I give it to you. I just noticed it as I looked at it. But anyway, so the basic lifestyle expense calculation, their rent. So whatever their rent payment is, you're going to multiply it by 12. You're not putting their mortgage here because the mortgage was taken into consideration on line 1. Okay, so this is only for those people who do not have a home. Okay, they're renting. So you're going to take whatever their rent is for the month, multiply it by 12. You're going to enter it on this line. If they have a car note, or even if they're paying a lease, you're going to multiply that monthly payment by 12. Enter that amount here. Now, what is missing that I am going to add is your car insurance. So whatever you're paying in car insurance by month, you're going to multiply by 12, and you're going to put that on the line. I'm going to add that line in a second. Your utilities. So think about your gas, your electric, your water bill. How much do you pay every month for gas, electric, and water? Multiply that by 12, and you're going to put that number here. Their cell phone bill, whatever they're paying, multiply it by 12. Their internet access. Now, with the internet access, I know a lot of people get their internet through their cable provider. Do not put the entire cable bill down, only the internet portion of the cable bill. If your cable bill do not specify that, it usually ranges between $50 and $75. So between $50 and $75, I usually do $65 times 12, okay? The next is the amount of gas that they put in their car. So ask them, I usually ask people, how much do you spend in putting gas in your car every week? Because most people can kind of they'll remember that, okay? So if they say, okay, I put $20 a week, well then I'm gonna multiply that by 4 so that I can get a monthly total, okay? So that's gonna be $80, and then I'm gonna multiply it by 12, and I'm gonna put it on this line, okay? For meals and entertainment, I usually ask people, how much money do they spend eating out outside of groceries? So do not put your grocery bill on here. Just when you're going out maybe to restaurants, you're going out for drinks and things like that. So how much do you usually spend throughout the week? multiply that by 4, that's going to give you a monthly total, multiply by 12, and you're going to put it on this line. What I also put here is your MyEcon monthly membership subscription, which is $34.95. Multiply that by 12, and you're going to enter it here. Now, there are a lot of deductions that you are going to qualify for because now you have a home-based business, okay? So the cost to get started in MyEcon, if you get dry cleaning, if you get lawn service on your house, if you're going on vacation, there's a lot of things that you get to write off. Your alarm service on your house and things like that. This is the bare minimums. And again, I want to keep it simple because I really don't want people to inflate this number in such a way, because these numbers need to equate to actual receipts, meaning that you're actually paying your car note, you're actually paying your rent, you're actually paying your cell phone, and it's going to give you those receipts. You know, vacations, sometimes people taking them, sometimes people are not, okay? So I wanted to keep this as simple as possible and just do the basics for the W-4. When you file your taxes at the end of the year, you're going to be able to write off everything. But just for W-4, stick within this guideline right here, okay? So on line 4, it says enter the total yearly expenses. So you're going to add up all these lines here, and you're going to put that total right here, okay? Line 5 says add lines 3 and 4 together. You're going to put that here. Line 6, you're going to enter 0. Line 7, you're going to divide line 6 from line 5, which it should be the same as line 4, so you're just carrying that number down. On line 8, you're going to divide line 7 by 4,050. I said round up. I'm going to change that to just drop the decimal. Okay, so instead of rounding up, you're going to kind of round down, you know. So if the number is 7.6, I'm just going to say 7. If it's 3.4, I'm just going to say 3. So I'm not going to round it up. We're just going to keep it conservative, drop the decimal. On line 9, enter the number from page 1 of your personal allowance worksheet. And then on line 2, you're going to add those two numbers together, and you're going to put it on page 1, bottom line number 5. It seems like a lot, you guys, but it's really simple. Once you have done this enough, all you're going to need is your W-4. I usually have a blank sheet of paper, and I just ask people, what's your rent? What's your cell phone? Okay, well, how much gas you putting in your car? Those basic categories is what I ask everybody. Add it up, multiply it by 12. That's that total number that I'm going to put in line 4 of the W-4 page 2. Okay, and just know that you're going to take that number, you're going to divide it by 40/50. That's your additional allowances. If you can remember that, everything is simple. The only time that you have to do a little bit more work is if a person actually has a mortgage. And if they do have a mortgage, then you're going to do line 1 by putting their mortgage interest on there. Okay, so this is pretty simple. This is self-explanatory. I'm going to post this video. I'm going to make a couple of corrections to this worksheet, and then I'm going to post the worksheet along with the video. And everybody should be able to get their W-4s adjusted, and everybody should be able to do it for the people that they bring into this business, because our #1 product in MyEcon is income shifting, and everybody should know and master income shifting. Okay? All right, you guys.